breaking down everyday workplace issues and diagnosing the hidden sickness, not just the obvious symptom. Our hosts, James and Kobe.
Did we lose a patient?
No, that's just my lunch.
Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Kobe, he's James, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to answer some questions posed to us by you, our faithful listeners.
Yeah, so Q&A session, so I don't really have much of a witty and wise intro.
It's
Although,
not something you usually bring to the intros, witty and
oh,
wise.
I am absolutely
That's
wise.
more irritated and condescending, I guess, but there's
Isn't that
some
what I
wisdom in
said?
it, I suppose.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Yeah, we've got some questions that we want to jump into.
Cool. So why don't we just jump into the first question? I'll ask it to you, James.
Sure.
So, this question reads, what are businesses missing in implementation?
Well, based on a lot of the work we've been doing, everything.
Certainly
Um,
a lot of holes, that's for sure.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I see is it's a problem with implementation, but it's also a problem with strategy. It's the idea of if you build it, magic's gonna happen and we're
Mm,
gonna be successful. It's the I've got this great idea to, it doesn't really matter, right? Maybe you're looking at implementing a new marketing strategy. So we've got this great product, we're gonna push it out there, and step one is market the product. Step two is, I don't know, magic happens, and step three is profit. Right? Like it's
yeah.
this idea that merely if you just go through the actions, or if you just
Mhm.
it doesn't implement something,
Yeah.
then it's going to fix your problems. We see
Mhm.
this often with technology solutions where companies are looking for a solution to a particular problem. Engagement actually is a great example because it's something that I like to harp on anyways. So you've got a problem with engagement. You find a software that will allow you to create these really fantastic, well-designed, visually appealing engagement surveys. And that's going to somehow, you implement this software and your problems are fixed because now you have an engagement strategy. Step one, buy the software. Step two, I don't know, collect data, I guess. And step three, somehow we fixed our problem.
Right. Yeah, no, like it's funny. It's a little bit hard to articulate, what it is that they're missing, but you're right. It's like there's an expectation of we don't have to understand how it all fits together. We just know that if we do something, there will be automatic effects
Well,
that will
it's the
come.
lack of, rarely do we see issues that are not interconnected with other problems, or that are causing or contributing to other challenges. So trying to fix any one problem in a vacuum oftentimes doesn't lead to success, because oftentimes you're looking at the symptom, right? You're looking at what problem am I experiencing? And we're trying to address that particular pain point, which is a symptom of the underlying problems. So
Mhm.
it's I don't know that it's, I might be going off on a tangent and not really answering the question, but it's not really a problem with implementation. It's a problem with not understanding what is actually causing your problem and then implementing a solution to address the symptom, not the cause.
You know what? So I've been a project manager for a really long time, and one of the things that's always I th is always present when we're building strategy and we're building steps and everything else like that too. Because again, the project management is a lot of, it's about taking big steps and breaking them down into daily or even hourly steps so that way everything's accounted for. What people are often expecting is that for you to hit the end goal, it's almost like half the journey is up a hill. And when you hit the tipping point, then it's all downhill from there and stuff just happens automatically. And a lot of people view implementation and projects and kind of with that idea of once you hit that tipping point, that precipice, everything else just falls into place. And again, kind of like I said, step one is step two, they hit the tipping point and then profit. But the reality is almost every project I've been a part of, and I've been a part of many, the entire trip is completely uphill. There is no tipping point. There is no
Not only
precipice.
is it uphill, it's often pushing a boulder uphill.
It is, and which is why, like I think I said this before in a past episode that my most hated expression is "if we build it, they will come."
Yeah.
Great movie, Field of Dreams, but it's a terrible business philosophy because that's the idea of if you build it, if you push it to that tipping point, then it's all downhill from there and people will come. And that is not the case. And it's almost like that's because like you're right. It's not necessarily implementation. It's actually almost like the ideas of change management is that it has to be constant, has to be relentless. You have to be like accounting for buy-in and actions and steps and testing and retesting and going back and getting feedback. It's it's never a linear path up a hill and then it's all downhill from there. It's never that way. But there is that assumption that if we do X, Y, and Z, then something will happen, even though we don't fully understand what it's going to be, but we'll get to the outcome through momentum alone or through the natural outcomes or once we hit the tipping point.
Yeah, and I think it's a problem of validation as well,
Yeah,
because we're looking. If you go searching for a solution to, so we've got a problem with turnover, or we've got a problem with recruitment.
right.
We can't bring enough people in. We know what our problem are, so we go looking for a solution to that problem, and we get validated that the solution when we go out to the market to fix that problem, we're going to be talking with people who are selling us on a solution to that pain point,
Right.
right? So we can, bring in external recruiters to help with, we can purchase recruitment software. We can, get all of these fancy gadgets that make us more efficient at being really bad at recruitment. But we're going to the market to validate a problem that they're selling us the solution on. And
Right.
so if you go searching for an answer to how do I do recruitment more efficiently, yeah, there's lots of ways to do it. But
Mm,
if your recruitment problem is actually stems from a really poor employer brand or a really poor employee experience,
right.
then buying a piece of software that allows you to become more efficient isn't actually
Mhm.
going to change your outcomes. It's just going to make it easy for you to be bad at it.
Right. Yeah, and like and that's just it. You kind of alluded to it before. It's about, you're trying to implement solutions to fix symptoms rather than truly understanding the underlying cause.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is why the work that we do, once people kind of get past the fact that when we describe the solutions that we provide, it sounds like the marketing and language of almost every other company out there, which is a problem of ours, hard to stand out when everyone's saying they can do sustainable, long-term solutions. But the thing is that but for us, we go after the foundations first, right?
Well, it's why we start with investigations, right? We need to actually
Yeah.
validate what. So I love our clients, um, but rarely do people come to us actually knowing where their problems come from, right? They know what's causing them pain.
Hmm.
They know what's taking their time. They know
Yeah.
what's sucking the energy out of their job. They
Hmm.
know what the problem is. They don't necessarily know what the cause of that problem is.
Yes. And that's often kind of the deciding factor of whether or not we choose to work with a client is are they like holding tightly on we know what our problem is and fix this one problem
Mhm.
or what or are they open to us in using data-driven investigations to illuminate the actual underlying causes of most of our issues. Because, and again, the reason why we use our favorite expression, like the most important question of what has to exist first for this to be effective, is because that is kind of an underlying project management philosophy
Mhm.
of understanding that you have to, again, like completely make sure that all the steps you're taking on this tool of implementation or complete this project, that your every step is solid.
Yeah.
And it's
You
the
can't
idea
renovate your
that
kitchen before you build the foundation of your house.
exactly, right? So the idea of understanding the value of the foundational work, and you're right. Like, I mean, just like, a contractor says, like, they won't work with a client that's like, no, you have to build the kitchen before you build the basement. They're not going to work with them. Just like, they're saying, you need to fix our recruitment. We're like, well, the problem is your culture. And like, oh, well, we don't want to fix that. We just want you to fix our recruitment. Like, well,
Yeah.
then we're not the company to work with you, right?
Yeah.
It's the idea of like you're right. It's a lack of understanding of kind of how, of their actual situation, and then assuming that they just insert things and eventually magic will happen. Step one is like, we buy the software. Step two is we roll the software out. Step three, something magical kind of happens that we don't really fully understand, but it's what the sales guy told us would happen. And then step three is success.
Yeah.
And it's an idea of, that because this is going after the problem that we see, regardless of what's happening kind of beneath the surface.
Yeah, so I mean, like a great example on the engagement piece, since we're trapping on engagement surveys right now. Um, Oftentimes, like common questions that we've seen over and over and over again are things around career growth within the organization. Do
Right.
you see an opportunity, to grow your career here? That sentiment is often included in a engagement survey. You collect that data. You've got some really good data that says, you know what? No, people don't see an opportunity to advance their career here. So we're going to just push out more information about all of the great career opportunities and what the process is to go from this position to this position and what all of your career aspirations and career trajectory pieces are. We get so hung up on that one piece, not realizing that, you know what? Maybe the reason why they don't see having a career here is because the job's terrible and they don't like working for you, right?
Right.
You're getting the same outcome, the same data is coming in, but you're
Hmm.
not investigating why. So
Yeah.
the problem, going back to what the actual question is, what's missing from implementation is validation of what's actually causing the problem, not just what the problem is. The problem in this case with the career growth question is not a lack of understanding of what career opportunities there are.
Hmm.
It's that I don't see myself working here long term because you're a terrible employer, because I'm paid poorly, because I'm treated poorly, because the job is stressful and I'm not supported, and
Yeah.
and my manager is crazy and micromanages the life out of me, right? Like all of
Yeah.
these elements contribute to why they don't see their why they answered the question of career growth in a negative light. But unless you actually investigate, you're going to get hung up on the wrong things.
Yeah. And that's just it, is it's the idea of, we're hoping that by asking you this one question, you'll give us a really simple answer that will magically solve the problem. Oh, you don't see, like you say, you don't see career opportunities here? Well, then we'll inform your career opportunities. Magic happens, and you're now happy. And like it sounds so stupid us saying it like that, but that's kind of the glossing over the realities of it. It's almost like it's an assumption of, oh, if we just assume that we just have to tell them about career opportunities, and then that will be the magic that will actually make it exist. We don't know how or why, but that's, but that's the tipping point when all of a sudden
Everything's going to be easier if we just fix that one thing.
exactly, yeah. So it's I do think that, like you're right. It's validation. It's because this is the thing too, is like this is the benefit of like when we go into organizations, like we can cut right to the heart of the issue, like so quickly. It's so funny. Every client that we work with is like, I can't believe how you get your arms around our problem so fast. And we like
Well,
to
it's
pat
just
ourselves on the back
asking questions in a different way,
with
right?
an outside perspective,
Yeah.
right? And this is the reality of having someone kind of come in from the outside that's not burdened by the perspective of kind of the inward facing and the history. Someone that can just see past the problems that people that are blocking people every day and identify kind of the core. And that's the foundational piece. And then we say if you fix the core, other stuff starts to kind of ripple effect, but you have to kind of know why and you have to understand, you have to validate. Otherwise, you're just throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that magic will happen.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's probably good for we've got a couple other questions we want to get through.
Yeah.
So why don't I toss the next one at you and kind of on the backs of my I'll reiterate my earlier statement, my witty um statements earlier. How do I make sure that I'm not micromanaging?
Yeah.
So from a manager's perspective, maybe they're a new manager or an experienced manager,
Right.
wanting to know how do I avoid that?
Yeah, so it's funny. This question was kind of came up as a almost like reaction to an episode we did a couple of episodes ago where we talked about effective leadership and management and the three deaths, and one of them being micromanagement. That, it's the idea of, okay, so these are problems. I want to make sure I'm not doing that. Because one of the things that I know we've talked to a lot of the like middle level managers and that's like that kind of thing that we've worked with is like everybody kind of likes control.
Mhm.
Everyone likes to kind of know that stuff's being done because, like, it's they recognize it's their head on the chopping block if their teams are dropping stuff or if outcomes aren't being met or KPIs aren't being met. Like they get that they want to make sure that they're able to come back to work the next day, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of like, how do I make sure that I can, have a successful team and department without, insisting on controlling everything because I'm a little bit worried about, just my longevity and that kind of stuff like that, right? And I think that's a fair question, and I always admire people that are like thinking, I might be a micromanager. How do I fix that? I appreciate the
The just even having that much self-awareness
yeah,
and concern is
yeah,
a huge step forward. I mean, I'm
absolutely.
glad you talked about the control aspect. That is absolutely part of it. And yes, I like being in control. I like having control over, like it's part of my natural personality.
Right.
Um, I need to make sure that I also temper that with providing people with the freedom to actually do what they need to do without me getting in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I always kind of start off with when someone is like, thinking that they may have micromanagement tendencies, is I talk about kind of like a little bit of critical reflection on why they may feel that way. Is it an insecurity thing? Like I just said, someone's worried about their own self-preservation and they want to make sure that the job is done right because it's their head on the chopping block. There's insecurities with that, right?
Mhm.
There's legitimate concerns, but there's also like, if you're truly worried about that and you feel like any misstep on you is going to end up really bad for you, there's problems with that. But is that actual or is that self-imposed? Is kind of a good place to start kind of in your critical reflection, because again, the idea of, like, yes, your team's outcomes, your department's outcomes and your outputs, yes, those rest on the shoulders of the leader. That's just the way that it is. But the actions themselves may not be as something that you have to guard as closely, as long as you're putting the structures in place to make sure that the outcomes and the outputs are being met,
Yeah.
right?
And there's a world of difference between micromanaging and managing performance.
Right.
So one thing that we often end up developing with clients is our strategies and resources and tools and training around performance management for managers. And one thing that I'm a very big proponent of is regular, short check-ins with your team, with your staff. The frequency is less important than the consistency.
Yeah.
So if you aren't able to do like 10 minutes with each staff person every week, maybe it's every other week, maybe whatever kind of frequency works for you. But there's a huge difference between regular conversations to get ahead of problems, to see where problems might be coming up and kind of track progress towards goals versus hovering over somebody's shoulder or micromanaging, really getting into the weeds of what they do. And so that's one piece that I think for somebody who is maybe they have very strong expectations placed on them from above, and want to make sure things are continuing to move forward. That is a way of kind of keeping things on track, making sure that the team that you are managing is performing optimally with regular check-ins, because then it becomes a regular part of the routine and it allows you to, if people are regularly not hitting the targets that we're setting week over week, then it's a conversation of, okay, why and how can I support you to actually achieve the things that we need to do week over week?
Right. And a big part of it too is to kind of realize that you're when you're managing performance, you have to kind of set those performance expectations and ensure they've got the tools and they've got the support they need in order to meet those expectations. And a lot of it is where I always tell people you need to kind of get to is you need to get to the idea of like trust but verify.
Right.
Right? So the idea of like, like put things into place so they have what they need and it's clear what they're supposed to do, then trust them to do that, but verify the results on a ongoing,
And
recurring,
that's where
scheduled
those regular check-ins are. That's the verification process,
yeah,
right?
right.
You're giving them the freedom to do the job how they how they decide it's best done.
Yeah.
You're holding them accountable for the outcomes that need to be achieved, and you're
Mhm.
doing regular check-ins with them to make sure that they're on track. And if they're not on track, then it's a conversation of, okay, how do we get back on track? What do you
Yeah.
need from me as your manager to help you get back on track? But if it's a recurring piece that they're constantly lagging behind, then you're into disciplinary,
Yeah.
potentially disciplinary, right?
Right.
Managing performance, if the expectations are consistently not being met, and we're doing everything we can to support people to reach our expectations, and they're still not, then we need to do something about, okay, well, here, what are the consequences of, consistently not performing the way that we expect you to?
Yeah. Exactly. And so the idea of like, your idea, like you say, ideally in an organization, you're structured well enough that, there's systems in place around performance that allows for to kind of
Yeah.
make sure that managers are not micromanaging. But we also know that's not the reality in a lot of places. There's not often not the structures that need to be in place. So one of the things that we like to kind of say is if you don't have those performance systems behind you, one, get them, but two, until then, um, a good, almost like a good backup plan, I guess, is if you create psychological safety in your team, if your team feels like they can talk to you, that they can express, any kind of concerns, your team will let you know if you are micromanaging them. They will feel comfortable to share with you. Like, especially if you say, hey, let me know if
Yeah.
I'm over, if I'm kind of over your shoulder too much. Like if you make that part of the conversation that's two-way, that they can almost help you with your performance while you're helping them with their performance, that's something that you can control as a leader on your own. You don't need a system in place. If the performance management stuff is not laid out to empower you to make sure that you're not micromanaging, by creating a culture that your staff feel comfortable talking to you and bringing things to you and letting you know if they feel like you're overdoing it in one department or another, like around like micromanaging them, that is something that will alleviate this issue. You have to just be willing to hear it.
Yes. And so there's a couple things that I want to follow up on. I like you're right. If you can create the environment, that goes a huge way towards giving people the freedom to kind of speak up and push back a little bit when you might be micromanaging. But you said something that I want to reiterate, and that's you have to set that expectation with them. You have to
Mm,
give them permission to push back. And if you give people permission to push back and they do it, you better listen to them
right.
because
Yes.
you will destroy your own credibility if you go halfway. There are no half measures in this. If you want to create psychological safety, you need to provide it to people. When those first baby steps in creating a psychologically safe environment are critically important. You're going to make mistakes at some point. This is inevitable. We all do it. But owning that, recognizing that, and you need to hold that space for people that if you've given them permission to challenge you or push back on particularly this issue of micromanagement and they do it, don't get offended, don't get defensive,
Right.
adjust your strategy. But again, like the other piece that I wanted to touch on is the performance management. You don't need a formalized structure to create regular check-ins with your team.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And I think that again, there's value in kind of coupling those two last points because so we did an episode a while ago where we talked about counterfeit psychological safety. It's
Yeah.
where you like tell everyone that you have an open door policy, you tell everyone that you're there to listen, you tell everyone, let me know if I cross the line or whatever like that, but then you don't react well or you use that to
Or you're
punish
keeping
them or
tally behind the scenes and using the
yeah.
the information that people think that they're giving you in good faith and
Mhm.
pulling it out, 6 months later to slap them with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a terrible,
Yeah.
terrible practice.
It is. And the idea too that, but like part of those short check-in meetings you're talking about is rapport building. It's almost like
Yes.
you're actually legitimately asking them how they are doing, not necessarily always just about, work directives. Like, so I mean, like and those two things can kind of build off each other. If you have real connection with your team, it's easier to provide the psychological safety. And if you're meeting with them on a regular basis and you're doing the check-ins and you're checking in on just how work's going, but also how they're doing, and and what do they need in order to kind of provide you their best work and to bring their best self to work, those kind of conversations kind of can work in tandem to build a better rapport that allows for better trust and makes it easier to get to a point of trust but verify.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the last question.
Okay.
Last one of you. So, what are some tips for recruiting in 2025?
Yeah, I feel like we've had this question a few times. Maybe not in 2025, but I'm going to go back to a couple of my standard responses to this quick, easy things that you can do to make your life and ultimately the applicant's life a lot easier. First, put the bloody salary on the job posting. Just do it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to hide it. If
Mhm.
you pay competitive wages, don't tell people that you pay competitive wages. Show them that your wages are competitive.
Right.
If you want to leave yourself room for negotiations, give them a range. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be a hard and set number, but something to indicate that this job is not, we're not trying to pull a fast one on you. It's not a bait and switch. We're not trying to lure you in and then underpay you. It's clear expectations right from the very beginning. Just put the bloody salary on the job posting,
Mhm.
please.
Right.
Okay, I've gotten that one out of my system.
Good.
One thing that I've, especially recently, one thing that I'm liking to seeing more and more of is more transparency in the job postings. So we talk a lot in different, I guess, different areas or different dimensions around setting and managing expectations.
Right.
And this is another way for you, right from the very first communication that you have with a potential job seeker or potential new employee, is this is an opportunity for you to set the expectations. Set the expectations around salaries. Yes, I brought it back. Set the expectation, or don't laugh at me. Set the expectations around the culture that exists in your workplace. Set the expectations around what the interview process is actually going to look like. One incredibly irritating trend that I've seen over the last, it's been a few years now, but there is no reason why you need 7 rounds of interviews. Don't do that. That's dumb. It's wasting everybody's time. But having some clear expectations around, the posting will be open for this period of time. We expect that interview, we'll be screening and hoping to do interviews within, these 2 weeks. If you already have that timeline in mind, giving that expectation to people up front sets you apart from virtually everybody else in the market. So clear expectations, some increased transparency in your job postings is kind of one of the tips that I would really recommend people start moving. If you want to differentiate yourself, if you want to show that you are different than your competition, this is an easy way to do it.
Yeah, and one of the things that we often ask businesses when this question kind of comes up is we kind of say, when does, in your opinion, business, your employee experience start?
Mhm.
And a lot of them kind of say, well, it's after they've started. Like we
It's
say,
the
well,
onboarding.
yeah. Well, what we say it's no, it should start in the job posting.
Yeah.
You should be building connections to your organization. You should be building almost like a relationship with people by transparency is one of the main tools in that posting so people get a feel for what you are. Like one of the things that we talked about or with clients and stuff in the past is when you have jobs that are kind of like niched or you have jobs that are like have set requirements for positions like required education or certifications or whatever,
Mhm.
we said in your posting talk about in your resume, job seeker, we want to verify you meet all of the requirements for the jobs, but where we want to learn about you is in your cover letter. We
Yeah.
want to learn about why this job interests you, why you're in this field, and we want to hear your words on why this is a good fit for both of us. And that type of job posting where you kind of tell them how you're going to be reviewing it and you kind of make it clear what the resume is for, what the cover letter is for, that is different. That stands out. That's something that the job seekers would go, wow, they're kind of giving me kind of clarity on what I should be doing. That's how the employee experience could start,
Yeah.
right?
So years ago when I did the a lot of the business coaching, the standard line around, because recruitment labor is always an issue in
Yeah.
every industry, in every size of business, in every region. It doesn't matter. Everybody has always and will always struggle with labor, it seems.
Yeah.
Your resume is going to tell me what you've done.
Right.
Your cover letter should tell me what you're going to do.
Right.
Right? Why are you? Because honestly, we're going to get a dozen resumes from people who all meet the same basic minimum requirements.
Mhm.
What I want to know to help me figure out who I want to bring in for an interview is understanding, okay, do you understand what we're asking for in this position? Do you have any, like, just the basic semblance of understanding of what my organization does? And can you articulate why you are the best person for the role? If you can
Right.
do those 3 things in your cover letter, you're setting yourself up for success. And as a business owner or as a recruiter, if you can shift your job postings to encourage people to provide you with that information, you're going to
Mhm.
get fewer applicants because it's more work, right? People aren't just able to hit submit to 4,700 different jobs with the same resume,
Right.
but you'll receive better quality applications.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and again, if you're being transparent with the pay, you use the posting as a vehicle to speak directly to the candidates, and like it's that's what it should be. It shouldn't just be a robotic, please insert answer here. It really should be a almost like an actual like narrative of this is our, this is the kind of the connection we're trying to build. So we want you to, meet us with that same level of effort that we're going to put the effort into reading the cover letters and using them to evaluate, what the fit and the
Mhm.
passion. So we want you to put that effort into submitting it to us. Yes, you're right. You get less candidates, but ideally you'll get better candidates. But one of the things that I'm seeing or I'm hearing a lot is people are not matching their resumes, or so they look good on paper, but then when they show up, they're not kind of what you had expected, or the resume didn't kind of match the answers and the questions. And some of that is, well, are your questions giving them an opportunity to really show you the real them? But also, is it, if it's just trying to match a resume to a job posting?
Yeah, I just want to kind of jump in on the whole resume piece for a second, because one thing that absolutely boggles my mind and drives me nuts is that one reason why your resume, like the resume and the person may not match up perfectly, is because people are learning to game the system, right? If you have an automated system that screens out resumes, people are getting wise to kind of whether it's keyword that they need to hit, or whether it is different screening tools that you are using. If you are using, one of the reasons why I see a lot of companies failing with the recruitment aspect, and applicants not necessarily matching up to their resume, that whole mentality of, we've done the screening, but when they show up, they don't have the skills that we need. It's because the companies are often relying on software to do the work. They're
Hmm.
relying on screening tools to make their lives easier. And that's fine. There are lots of ways to find efficiencies in systems and programs to help you do that. But if you are relying on a piece of software or technology to do your screening for you, you're relying on a system that can be gamed. And
Right.
people are smart and lazy.
Hmm.
And that's how innovation often happens. Right? But it's if you are relying on these automated tools, whether it's AI or just smart automation
Hmm.
to screen out applicants, people get wise to the game. Every
Yeah.
game has rules, and then once you understand the rules, you can manipulate them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what we see. We see companies buy the latest piece of software to change the rules of the game. It takes a very short period of time for job seekers to understand that the rules have changed, and then they shift gears and they play the same game, right? But if you try to turn this into a more authentic experience where we actually care about what you can do for us, and we want you to provide that information to us through a cover letter, it takes you're changing the rules again, but it makes it more difficult to game the system. Yes, AI can write cover letters.
Hmm.
Yes, AI can be used to screen cover letters.
Right.
It does an equally poor job of both if you haven't built the structures properly.
Right.
But if you're going to, I think the big thing that I want to get across with this is that if you're going to look for efficiencies in your system, don't sacrifice quality for quantity.
Yeah.
Don't sacrifice the human element of evaluating a human and pass that responsibility off to an automated program.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Like, I mean, because I was saying, have a cover letter that really kind of sells brings the human element to it. You're right. AI can write decent cover letters that might do that, but at the end of the day, isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as what AI were to write in the cover letter is reflective of how the person actually is.
If you are hiring somebody who's going to be writing a lot of like marketing copy for you,
Yeah.
yeah, you probably don't want them using AI. All right.
Right.
That
Yeah. But if they're going to be
completely makes
working
sense.
with children, or if they're going to be doing really, honestly, if they're doing anything that's not writing, then what does it matter if they're conveying the message across to you,
Yeah. I
right?
mean, what if they're using a tool to help them frame their thoughts and articulate things in a professional manner. I would rather read that than somebody's ineligible.
Even if you allow them to like record a video or even an audio message of what would be in a cover letter, giving them a chance to kind of convey their human side to you and how they're a good fit for your organization and the job it just allows for that more human element back into the whole recruiting process.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've beaten this horse to death. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, really, let's try to add a little bit more authenticity back into our recruitment process and understand that we're dealing with people. We're
Mm.
dealing with people who are trying to get a job and who are trying to earn a livelihood. Yes, it's a lot of work, but don't automate the success.
Right. No, that's fair. Okay, so I think that's about does it for this conversation. I want to say this is also our last episode of this season. So looking forward to season 4, which will be coming up in a couple weeks. But yeah,
Which is kind of amazing that people have been listening to us rant about stuff for 3 years now.
I know.
So
Hmm.
congratulations to you for actually sticking it out. Um,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
sure if I should be my congratulations or condolences, but
Yeah, no, we enjoy doing these, and we have no intention of stopping. Shy of a court order. Um,
it's on its way.
so looking forward to our next season. All right, so that about does it for us. For a full archive of the podcast and access to video version hosted on our YouTube channel, visit roman3.ca/podcast. Thanks for joining us.
For more information on topics like these, don't forget to visit us at roman3.ca. Side effects of this podcast may include improved retention, high productivity, increased market share, employees breaking out in spontaneous dance, dry mouth, aversion to the sound of James's voice, desire to find a better podcast.